Chevy.
Just enough to engrave
What's up, him? How you doing?
the
I'm good.
logo. You know what I mean? I'd rather have it engraved than have stickers on it. Man, that looks good.
I mean, they got light scratches, but I think we can hit them by hand from here and just get rid of
Yeah,
that
I mean,
bug.
you're never. The thing is, you're never going to get them all out because it's soft.
Man,
and
I think I'm gonna leave it. I was
the
gonna Cerakote
wheel
it, but-
starts.
Yeah. I mean, you could just hand it by mothers, at least on the flat, but
Looks crazy compared to how they looked last week.
leave them alone. Yeah, they got rid of a lot of the machine marks on top.
Hole. Dad?
Cool. I like it.
$2,000s. That is nice and snug. We'll be able to run the thin oil in this one, Jordan. May want to polish on that crank a minute. Open her up just a little bit. I do still need to polish the crank, so that'd be good if I can knock a couple tenths out of it. Ooh, that's tight. I think may need a H bearing in it. Actually, full 2. Are we working? We're on. I didn't know I was being surveilled. So this, what I wanted to tell you about this motor is kind of a cool story. My Uncle Fred, my mom's brother, he bought a Falcon, and when I was like 22 maybe, I just started my business, 2002-ish, 2003, I don't remember. He had a 50 model Ford shoebox. I got a picture, we'll get a picture of it in there. He had built it at home, and he bought a Fox body that had a motor and a trans in it, like a 5-speed and a 302. It's a little snug right there. And the motor was a little tired, so we took it out. I freshened it up right there, and I'm talking homeboy freshen. You know, I hadn't built a ton of motors at the time, but I'm talking hand honed with a drill, you know, and just threw it right back together. Checked it all out, and it ran great. Put the 5-speed in it. I later painted that car, and then he sold it eventually. But the kind of cool part of this is almost 5 years later, he bought that car, and it just got a very basic 289 stock, maybe with some headers and 4-barrel. And so he hit me up a while back, and he's like, "Man, what do I got to do to get some more power?" You know, I said, "Well, that's kind of my specialty." So I just happen to have a 302 with aluminum head sitting here I bought that's supposedly fresh, but I don't trust anybody, their motors and stuff. So took it apart, and it was decent stuff, but flat tappet cam. So we're putting him a hydraulic roller in it, checking bearing clearances now, starting assembly. His heads are right over there, already went through those. Valve job, it's got the professional Jeff Jones full radius exhaust, multi-angle intake, and new springs set up for the roller and all. So the cool part about all this is that 20-something years ago, I was swirling together a small block Ford for him, and now we're putting one together. And what's neat is this is the first block that we did all the work on. Like, we line honed it with the help of Jason Brooks, set it up on the Sunny machine, and I decked it. I can send you some videos of all that. And then Jeff actually honed this first block he's ever honed on his own or whatever, so kind of learning that machine. So it was just kind of cool that, you know, that many years later, went from doing it with a hand drill to actually doing it like on Sunny machines. And, you know, plus it's from my uncle, who's, you know,
Do it how somebody
one of my favorites, you know.
truly producing these engines with
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Doing it the right way, and so that was, I just thought it was cool that his was the first that we did that much work on. We've been doing head work for over a year up there, but just getting to do all of it and learning as we go, because we had never done a line hone before, and luckily it didn't need a whole lot. We just kind of cleaned it up, but so it should be a nice piece. We're figuring. I actually went with almost the whole Edelbrock package, which I've not really done, but Performer RPM heads, their camshaft, it's a hydraulic roller. It should make 370 or 380, and which compared to the probably 170 he has now will be substantial.
It'll be a world of change.
Yeah, so should be good. I mean, it's still super mild and streetable, but like I tell everybody, it's hard not to make power with a small block Ford. I mean, it just kind of happens naturally, but
Can you use the right parts?
yeah. But, so, should be cool. It is a little tighter than I like. I'm going to have to do a different set of bearings, because that's certainly marginal. I could polish the crank and maybe get a tenth or two out of it, but
Loosen it up just
even
a
that's
tad.
borderline, because I got a couple that are under 2,000ths on the mains, and I don't like that. That's a little snow.
Yeah.
So it's like everything else, those bearings will probably go on the shelf and buy another set that's got more clearance.
Yep.
It's got to be right.
It's part of it.
A little technical tip on these. These are 3/8 rocker studs. So when you preload them, you got to go a little farther than on 7/16. Pretty simple math, but 3/8 24, so 24 turns to make an inch.
Okay.
Thread pitch. 7/16 is 20, so it takes 20.
20.
So if you do the math, one full revolution of one is more than the other. So on a 3/8, instead of like normally I'd take them to here, jam them, and go to like here. Mm-hmm. On this one, I'm going to take it past here and then jam it to almost 3/4 of preload.
Okay.
And then that you're still preloading the lifter, 35 thousandths or so, which is about what all the manufacturers seem to have landed on now, as long as it's not a short travel. So that's the way I do it. There's also some science to this that a lot of people don't think about, and this gets really technical, so about half of y'all are going to be lost when I tell you this. This is different than a shaft rocker, whereas a shaft rocker usually has the adjuster directly over the top of the push rod. So X amount of turns is truly the same as the thread pitch factor. You know what I'm saying? I'll show you. So let's say 20 divided by 1 inch. So on a 7/16, 20. 1 divided by 20 is 50 thousandths. So for every revolution on a 7/16, it'd be a 20 thousandths of preload.
Okay.
But it doesn't actually factor that way. That'd be 50 thousandths. So on a 24, you're going to take 1 divided by 24, because it's a 3/8 24.
Uh-huh.
So now one revolution's only 42 thousandths almost. So like if you do one revolution of this one, this will go down right here, 42 thousandths. Well, everybody think, well, that's how much preload you need. It's not exactly 1-to-1, because you've got rocker ratio here. So what you tighten here is not necessarily how much it's pushing this push rod down.
End.
So I've put dial indicators on here before to see how much, and that's how I know roughly on most motors, small block Ford, Chevy, big block, all that. But depending on that ratio, it changes this length right here, so that, you know what I mean, the tighter this is, the less lift here, the more it lifts here.
Yeah,
so like
it's
a
gonna lift on the
1/8,
back end.
this is going to be shorter together. The farther apart this is, closer to 1-to-1, you start losing that ratio. So on a shaft rocker, you're pushing right down on the push rod. So one whole turn with this would be 41 thousandths, which would be a little too much. But when you start factoring this ratio, it's not 1-to-1. So you really have to test on different engines to see how much true preload am I getting down on that push rod. So I've done all the ciphering on that over the years. But basically the way I do it, make sure these are backed up plenty out of the way, because you don't want to that'll give you a false reading. Like if this was screwed down in here flush, I'll show you. So right now, I feel like I'm preloaded, right? If this were, let's see, let's go down a little deeper. Like let's just say you threw that on there and you think, all right, well that's it, it's there. It's not. It's still loose
super
because
loose.
this is hitting the top of the stud. These studs are pretty tall, so I've got a little bit hanging out. So you want to get these backed off out of the way. And then make sure everything's seated where it belongs. These are all new lifters, so they're fairly tight. I just kind of feel that little bit of drag, like, you know, right there I'm having to put resistance to the push rod, and it's just kind of a feel thing. There is a margin for error. That plunger's living in there with oil under it, so if you're at 30 or 40, the motor will be fine. If you start getting too low, though, as everything heats up and you gain lash with heat, which a lot of people think opposite too, then they'll start rattling. So you do have to, you know, make sure you've got plenty of preload. You just don't want to go too far because it might start to hold the valve open. So I just kind of line up here. So I know I'm at 0 here. I'm going to go a little past a half to right there, and then I jam it. And I don't do it old man style. I get a little bit on it because I've seen those come loose before with the guys that just kind of give it a little cinch.
Yeah.
Need to be tight. Stuff's, you know, going to be going down the road for 100,000 miles. So same deal here. Kind of get the wrench where it's happy. So there's a half, a little bit more, about 5/8, and then jam it, holding resistance back against here, and then you're binding those two together. So when you jam those two together and then bind them, it's like pulling all that slack out of the threads. They'll never come off if you do that. Some old man will probably say, "Oh, you're gonna crack the poly locks." Like, I'm not tightening it that much, old timer. You got to have something on it though. But so that's it. Pretty simple deal.
You've got more than 15 foot-pounds going into her.
That's right. Yeah. But that's another thing too. A lot of guys back in the day, everybody's like, "Oh, you got to soak your lifters." And most of the manufacturers now don't want you to on a hydraulic anyway. Solid, yes, soak them. On a hydraulic, I basically blow them off, wipe them down with a lint-free towel, and right before I put them in the motor, once I've checked for clearance, I just dip the roller and all that in the oil and turn around and throw it right in the motor. And I got assembly lube on the cam. But if you soak hydraulic lifters, it fills up, again, back to that body underneath the plunger where the push rod rides. It'll fill all that up. And like right now, when I would have adjusted these, it would actually hold the valve open, because until it can bleed all that oil out of the lifter, it'll hold the valve open. Well, then when you first bust that car off, it's going to run like crap because the lifters are open, so it's going to have no vacuum. It's not sealed up right, and be like, "What's wrong with my motor?"
pressure.
And sometimes it'll take, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to bleed all that oil, because you got to figure that, you know, that oil's trying to get out of a little tiny hole. So that's the reason you don't soak hydraulics. Again,
Makes sense.
Old timers, some probably do, and not saying it won't work. I mean, it'll clear itself out, but I found it better to, because the thing is I'm gonna prime it here in a minute, so I'm gonna have oil pressure running through this thing for 5 minutes, and they're gonna pump up. And then once you bust it off, it, you know, good lifter, within a couple minutes they're done rattling, they're pumped up and quiet. So
Smooth sailing.
yep. I like the Harlan Sharps. They're not the most pretty thing in the whole world. They're very simple, and the only thing I don't like is they don't put the rocker ratio here. So like, if I throw these in a box and forget what they went to, you
have
better
no
ride
idea.
it. You don't know what they came off of, and you don't know what ratio they are. So, and now you can measure that. You can measure the difference from here to here and here to here, and it'll tell you, like, these are 1/6.
Yeah, but it's much easier to grab out of the box if you've already got it labeled what it is, rather than having to go and
for sure.
find the tool to measure it and write it down.
Yeah, and something else I kind of do as a spot check, I always run these on fire and order. And, you know, if it's a solid roller or solid anything, I'll do this, and then I'll go back and fine tune them with the, you know, intake open, exhaust closed method and all that stuff, just to make sure, because that will change a little. But I always kind of sight down the top of these, and this tells you that you're really close. I've checked them with calipers before. They won't ever be perfect because there's manufacturing differences in all the bolts, all the studs, just little stuff. But if you're looking at this and you see one that's like jacked way up here, well, then something's wrong. You've either got this trunnion flipped upside down, or you missed it, you know what I mean, or there's something wrong. But just one more little spot check that I give is just make sure all of these are the same distance up above here, and that just tells me that, you know, that it's close.
Yeah.
Because even on these, I write down all the installed heights. Dr. Jones taught me that years ago, that, you know, when I'm setting up springs, we check every one of them so that we shim them all exactly the same. So I know that all my installed heights are within 15 thousandths, and that nut will in turn be that close as well.
Heck yeah.
So
Smart.
we'll roll it around here and prime it up. We got oil in it already. I put the driven, which used to be Gibbs. I think I put the GL1 10W30 in this. This motor has pretty tight clearances. It's going to be a street car. It's not full-blown race. Maybe 5,500 RPM will be about all this cam will hang in there too, along with the intake. Built this motor a little tighter, so it should go for years and years and have good oil pressure and all that. I'm stock pump, and I'm expecting it'll make 60 on the drill just based on clearances.
Yeah.
So we'll see. See how
Is this
close.
Uncle Fred's?
This is Uncle Fred.
Okay. I'll add it to the file.
He is about done. We're down to literally priming it, put the valve covers on, drop the distributor, and then I want to try to dyno a small block Chevy this week up there. That one that just that takeout motor.
Yeah.
Make sure the dyno and the water and all that stuff's working good. And if so, then this one will probably go in there next week. So
Heck yeah.
that's the plan.
And when it does, make sure you get a video of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll add it to it.
Let's see how close we guessed here. It's within 2 pounds. Plug the gas up there. That's that 60.
Yep.
That's just kind of where the bypass valve is on these, and you know, good snug side clearance and rod and main clearance. It'll have about 60. That's why I like on a thing like this. I used to put high volume on everything, but it can actually suck the pan dry if you're on a really long pull, because you just don't have that extra capacity. If you got 5.5 in the whole system. Now, again, I've got my favorite little thing I do, which is I've got a restricted tip push rod on this motor, which is probably overkill, but it also goes back to that whole deal of not starving the oil pan. And so I've got an 040 tip on all these from Smith Brothers on the push rod, and you'll see, even with the restriction, you see how much it's filling them up and how fast. So without that, it would be gushing over pretty hard. A lot of times these hydraulic roller lifters,
Similar to the problem that Jeff was having.
exactly. Yeah, they'll let too much oil to the top, and there is no controlling it other than the push rod. You can't restrict down low because the
Which
lifter
is why you
needs
had to put
pressure.
the other Smith Brothers on
Exactly. Yep.
after you're doing the CNC machine work.
Exactly. Pump that quick.
Heck yeah.
I'll need another battery out in there. Just trying to get where it ain't gonna run off in the floor. That new GL1 is green. That's that Penny.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
So I didn't know for years that that's what that meant. Just like Pennsylvania oil out of the ground is the best oil for motor oil, is what they say, at least performance stuff. So back in the day, you had Kendall, which was green. You could buy it from O'Reilly's before the EPA jumped in and, took all the good stuff out. So we'd run Kendall, they had up to 60 or 70 weight oil, like, nitro or something they call it. But anyway, that was always green oil. And then Brad Penn took over, bought them out, whatever the case, and it was known as the green oil. And it wasn't that they put any weird additives or anything in it. It's that the oil out of the ground is green, and it makes, it ain't good cooking oil. It's good in hot rod motors. So
Yeah.
that's where that comes from.
It's good lubricant.
It is good stuff. Yeah, that's that stuff that what's his name putting that LS on that sick week or whatever it was. a couple weeks
yeah.
ago. What's his name?
Cletus.
Cletus. Yeah. They had that LS that whatever's down, no oil pressure, all that mess, and then they put that in there and made the rest of the trip. Don't know if it was the oil or what, but
Now,
all right, that's enough of that. Something else too we've been learning and did it like on Macy's motor is when I talked to Lake Speed about oil weights, because he helped us out with the ring pack on that car and some other stuff. And there's a chart with the driven oil in it, so it's clearances matter, of course, as far as what weight of oil to use, but the other critical factor is oil temperature. And so, like on a dirt car, our oil temp might get up to 200 or 220 at the end of the feature.
Yeah.
And a certain clearance at 220 degrees of oil is different than a super tight motor that say runs cool,
running like 180,
or
190.
the same clearance motor from drag race to whatever. So that's why we went with 1040 in Macy's car, because clearance wise it was right in the middle and not too loose or anything, but they're on methanol in their drag racing, so their oil temp's never going to get to be what a dirt car is. So that's a big factor, because you don't want to overwork the oil pump, because you're spinning that shaft. I mean, that's more horsepower. So the thinner oil you can run, the more free horsepower there is there. And that's just one other little thing you can gain a couple horsepower from. Fred's distributor around here somewhere.
There it ain't. Fred.
Uncle Fred. Hopefully that's cast geared like it's supposed to be. Just put the firing order on there just in case somebody ever works on this thing. I didn't even look it up on the internet either. Imagine that. Uncle Fred. I'm gonna do it. I'll mark that shit wrong. Somebody messing with me.
Did you put it back on backwards earlier when you took it off?
Yeah. Exactly.
It was you that was messing with you.
Probably. Phone ring.
Put a fold motor in the Chevrolet. Really piss off some people.
In what?
Huh?
In what?
The old turd over there.
Oh. Man, you can't do that to a Ford motor.
Well, I thought it'd make it fast.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but you know what butts are for?
that would embarrass that Ford motor.
Jeez.